What's up, duelists? Now, I've got a brand new Quickdraw Dandelion list designed by your boy. But before I explain all the crazy tech that you're seeing right in front of your face, please go ahead, like, and subscribe. I've been, making crazy decks for this format. I'm doing some cool stuff lately, and it really means a lot to me if you hit that like button. You know what I'm saying. It really means a lot to me if you subscribe. All right, let's get into the deck. We got Quickdraw, we got Debris Dragon, two best cards in the deck. They facilitate your best plays. Quickdraw makes the best synchro in the second best synchro in the format, Drill Warrior, and Debris Dragon is a one-card Dragon synchro, which is very powerful. It can make any one of these 5 synchros down here, and that's just really strong, obviously. But in order to really fully utilize these cards, you have to have access to Dandelion, and there's really only so many ways you can get access to Dandelion on the first turn of the game. There's, of course, Foolish Burial. There's, of course, just drawing the Dandelion. There's Lonefire Blossom, so that's 5 ways. And then, of course, there's like high rolling on mills with Card Trooper, Raikou, etc. But there's one other way to consistently hit Dandelion on the first turn of the game, and that's Future Fusion. And Future Fusion is just a busted card. So I've elected to include Future Fusion, Elemental Hero Stratos, and 2 copies of Destiny Hero Malicious in this deck. Future Fusion basically just acts as another copy of Foolish Burial to find Dandelion ASAP. I noticed the games I was winning with this deck were the games where I just found Dandelion. So I had to include the most ways to find it. I'm not playing Charge of the Light Brigade, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Future Fusion is it's basically like Foolish Burial number 2, but it can also act as like a double Foolish in some circumstances where you send Malicious and Treeborn Frog, which is really good. The next part of this deck is actually a small 1-for-1 package. You've got triple Volcanic Shell. You're usually not 1-for-1ing into Volcanic Shell, but you can. You can also 1-for-1 into Treeborn Frog. Again, you're probably not 1-for-1ing into that, but you can. 1-for-1 also, or most often is going to go into either Cyber Valley or the main deck Consecrated Light. Now, this is a card that I got to talk about a lot because it's not very common to see this card in the main deck. Oftentimes, decks can't really fully utilize this card game 1, and it's not good in a lot of matchups. But in this deck, where you can convert a dead Consecrated Light very easily, like you can use it with a Quick Draw to make Drill, worst case scenario. You can pitch it to a bunch of different effects. Wind Blast, 1-for-1, Quick Draw itself, etc. And it's just so powerful not to fully utilize. This card basically turns what was an unwinnable matchup in Blackwings to a very winnable matchup game 1. You have a bunch of different ways to protect it between Titanial, easily made Stardust Dragon, and 1 copy of main deck Royal Decree. The reason I have 1 copy of main deck Royal Decree is not only does it protect your Drill Warrior and your other plays, like really easily, like not really easily, I guess I should say. That's a poor way of putting it, but it makes it so your Drill Dandelion loop goes off in a lot of matchups where it normally wouldn't. It's also just really solid because you can clear it yourself using Debris Dragon into Black Rose like fairly consistently. It helps you resolve your Black Rose plays as well. So it's just a really solid card to include 1 of in this deck. I am not playing 2 because I have noticed that it bricks at 2 copies. You don't want to draw the second copy. Usually just drawing the first copy is good enough. So that's why we have the 1 copy. You can set up boards like Decree Consecrated, which are very, very difficult boards to beat for Blackwings in game 1. Their only outs really are like Brain Control, Tribute Set Sirocco, and Book of Moon, both of which can be negated by Titanial. So if you can set up Titanial, Consecrated, Decree, then you just win against Blackwings. It can turn certain games like completely around for you in which you otherwise would have no shot at ever competing. Triple Raikou, of course. This just helps you like open up the game. You have a lot of good mills in this deck. You can mill Shell, you can mill Treeborn, you can also mill Dandelion. So that's, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mills. And then you can also mill Malicious. So it's 8 good mills, which is a high chance you're going to hit something really nice. We got Tragon Gores. Yes, Tragon Gores are awkward with Consecrated Light, but if you have monsters in play, you can't summon Gores anyway. And Trag, of course, is just a way you can like survive, basically. Survive certain things. It becomes very powerful with Shell because you're able to keep your hand advantage and keep him strong. Now, for the Monarch of choice, I am playing Thestalos. Thestalos is something we could like sack Consecrated Light for. You can tribute set Caius over Consecrated Light, but it's a little bit awkward. I've really liked Thestalos in the Quick Draw style decks as a way to just approach this format. The way people are playing is they're playing like a lot more conservatively lately. They're not committing their best cards first. And Thestalos really punishes that. It's like, oh, you're holding your Judgment Dragon, you're holding your Christia, you're holding your Darkroom Dragon. I'm going to hit that card out of your hand with Thestalos. It's almost always going to have a shot, at least a shot, at hitting a very high impact card when it resolves in the early to late game. So I really like this card. Future Fusion, again, it's just such a broken card, and I feel like playing this deck without Future Fusion is a little bit disingenuous. It's just like, why are we not playing this really powerful card that also like speeds up our strategy? Finding Dandelion on the first turn of the game with Future Fusion and then having Lone Fire or something like that just is an insane start. If you go Future Fusion, send Stratos Dandy, summon Lone Fire, make Titanial with Lone Fire token, and then you have a Gaia coming in 2 turns, that's a ton of pressure. It's really, really strong, very, very slept on. Of course, we got to have Sangan. Sangan can search you for just about anything in this deck. The only things it doesn't get you access to are Thestalos and Gores. I believe it also doesn't get you Stratos, but that's kind of irrelevant because it can just get you to Malicious if you need it. Sangan's also really good in this deck because normally Sangan's kind of like a slower card. It's like a card that takes a normal summon, and then people can run it over pretty easily with their normal summon. But because it can find a field nuke in Debris Dragon or speedy ways to put big monsters into play in Lone Fire and Quickdraw, it's just at its best in decks like this. So I think it's like a mandatory inclusion in a deck like this. We got double Windblast. It's too powerful with Shell. You have to play them. Torrential, because it's just too powerful. It's good in every matchup. This is basically Dark Hole on steroids. I used to play the game with a really strong player who used to compare Torrential Tribute to Dark Hole, and he was like, I don't understand why Dark Hole is banned, but Torrential Tribute is legal. And that honestly really resonated with me at the time, and it's an idea that's kind of stuck with me. Torrential Tribute is literally just Flash Dark Hole. It's so much better. So yeah, I think this is like one of the best trap cards in the format, if not the best trap card in the format, and arguably Trap Dash Shoot's the other one, so gotta include these. If you open Trap Dash Shoot, it's just a significant advantage for you. You can take your opponent's best monster. You get to see everything you need to play around, and you can easily do that thanks to the way this deck is able to switch modes from offense to defense to control to aggro, like on the flip of a switch. The sideboard is a work in progress, but I'm pretty happy with what's in here so far. We've got double Cyber Dragon for machines. We've got double DD Crow for just graveyard shenanigans. It's also a 1-star, so worst case scenario, you can make Drill Warrior with it. I like DD Crow in this meta. I think it's great against zombies, which is the most popular deck. I think it's pretty good against Vayu, and I think it's really good against Frogs. So I think it's a great card to include in your deck. While it's not the best against Christius Horn or Fairies, it's like decent there too, because it can interrupt their plays, which is nice. I've got one Dark Dust Spirit. This is a card I've been on the fence about. I'm not sure if it's good or not, but having repeatable Field Nuke is kind of nice. However, I feel like I should maybe try to include a Battle Fader if I am going to continue to play this. So I was thinking of maybe cutting this Spirit Reaper for the Battle Fader. I'm not really sure. I just think having that sort of like effect in your deck is really strong, but I'm not sure if Dark Dust is like the way to go about it. I don't know if it's better or worse than like just, I don't know, Lightning Vortex or something like that. Lightning Vortex might be better because it's just like faster, it doesn't take a tribute. It can out something like Christia by pitching a shell. Like, it's just like such a high value card in this deck. I think I'm going to end up replacing the Dark Dust Spirit with Lightning Vortex moving forward. Spirit Reaper, of course, I may leave that. If I end up moving towards Vortex, then Spirit Reaper obviously gains a lot of equity, so I may end up leaving him. I do side this card in matchups where obviously Consecrated Light is not the best, and that's not our plan. He's not very good against Blackwings. He's not very good against like Glads and stuff, but he's like decent in some matchups. Like, he's good against Frogs and stuff where you need to attack their hand if they leave the board open. He's good at like forcing certain things. Another thing I didn't mention about Consecrated Light is like when you inevitably do go for game, you can land a little Consecrated Light in play, and that just like guarantees your lethal through Gore's Drag Fader, which is awesome. It's like such a cool niche card in this deck that I think fills a role that the deck really lacked before. That's why we have a second one in the sideboard, of course. And I do have double Caius. I do side these in the matchups where like people are going to see this sort of list, right? And then you can kind of pivot back and have the Caiuses in. It is a little bit awkward when Consecrated Light is your game plan to have Caius in your main deck, so that's why they're not in the main deck. But again, I'm not really sure if like siding Caius is a meme or not. I'm not really sure if it should be something else or like what the deal is there with that. They may end up becoming a different card in the future, maybe more copies of Lightning Vortex. We've got Consecrated Light. Of course, that's the game plan with this deck, is like Consecrated Light shuts off most of the powerful stuff that your opponent can do to you and stops them from OTKing you with like Blackwing monsters or zombie monsters or whatever. And then on your side of the field, it doesn't really affect you. It's like a one-sided floodgate, basically. So having an extra copy is super important for those matchups. Double Book of Moon. This comes in when you bring in Second Decree. This also comes in when your opponent's on like Christia, Vanities, Fossil Dyna as their outs to your Drill Warrior. In the draw phase, you can Book of Moon their summon stop guy, and your Drill Warrior will still come back, which is really useful. On the same vein, or along the same vein, we got the third Wind Blast, just sided in as your third piece of spot removal. Double Pulling the Rug, this is for like proactive summon activate effects decks like Diva Hero and Frog Monarch. You gotta have that to protect your Raikou when you're going second. And then of course the last Royal Decree. The extra deck is fairly standard, it's just everything you need in order to play the game. Yeah, there's no Trident Dragon, but that's never going to come up, and there's no Dark End Dragon, but again, that's like very rare. It's like DD Crow Sangan plus Debris. It just doesn't come up that often. You got to have the 2 hero fusions, and I think just having the second Chimera tech when we have no Avarice is important and will come up more than Dark End and more than the Trident Dragon will. I've got 2 replays for you. I think they showcase the concepts in this deck. Again, I don't think this deck is totally perfect, but I think it's to the point where it's good enough to show you the idea of it, more or less. The first replay is against, not that one, it's against Adept 1997. So we win the rock, paper, scissors, which is good because really what I'm trying to do is just showcase the idea of this deck. We open Titanial, which sucks, obviously, but like, oh well, we open Dandelion. I really cannot complain. I'm going to set Wind Blast and pass. Wind Blast has 1 good discard in Dandelion. It's basically like a free discard because it gives us 2 tokens to work with. We could even do something like Wind Blast their thing, their back row, and then double tribute for Titanial if we want to. Opponent goes Allure of Darkness, banishes Vayu, normal summons Shura. So we're playing against Blackwings, which is normally Quickdraw's worst matchup by a lot. It is a very, very, very bad matchup for Quickdraw. Anyway, tax for 1800. We take 18, sets a couple back row passes. End phase, I'm going to Wind Blast into the back row. I'm going to just try to set up something here where I can maybe make something happen. I don't know. I could have maybe waited on the Wind Blast. I could have maybe Wind Blasted the monster to try and shut off Icarus and then try to Debris Nuke, but then they're just drawing Shura again. And I'm still in the bad position I was in before, where like I don't have a threat, I don't have anything I can summon, and they're beating me down with a Shura. So I decided to go for the back row, try to get some tokens. I create the wrong tokens, but I think this one looks ridiculous, so I stick with it. We pick up another Debris, which is phenomenal. This card is just very good in general. We brain control the Shura the Flame, Shura the Blue Flame, and that resolves, which is beautiful. There's no Icarus attack. I was just brain controlling, trying to bait Icarus attack, but thankfully they did not have it. If they had Icarus attack there, then we would have gone Debris into Ancient Fairy Dragon and made 2 tokens and had a board that way, but yeah, I was trying to bait the Icarus attack. I attack for 18, play around whatever, and then we sack for Titanial. I want to get Titanial into play here because if they set up another Icarus attack, I just want to be able to negate that, more or less. I want to be able to play through whatever. And also if their back row is Oppression, it's not Starlight Road. Spoiler alert. But if it's Oppression, I don't want to like, I don't know. I also didn't want to Thestalos and like have them have Blizzard left over. And then Blizzard makes Goyo and attacks over the Thestalos. And I'm just in a really bad spot. They have 2 back row that I don't know about. One of which is not Icarus attack. So it's potentially Royal Oppression. I might not be able to Debris Nuke their guy if they make Blizzy into Goyo. So I was playing around that. There's a lot of different things to think about with this play, but I think this is the best way to approach it. Here comes Bora the Spear that's going to pierce over our token and deal us significant damage. We've now dropped to 3,700. So this is usually where the Quickdraw deck loses. I can never summon Debris Dragon and make 2 tokens ever again because then I die to Sirocco Bora immediately. Or I die to Blizzard into Armed Wing with Kalut immediately. There's like so many 2-card combinations that just kill me from this point. So, next turn we pick up Consecrated Light. Lucky as shit draw, no cap. Lucky as shit draw. But to be fair, like we play Sangan to search it. We play 1 for 1 to search it. So we play 3 copies of it, more or less. So it's not like the most lucky draw, but it's definitely a good draw here. I cannot say that drawing Consecrated Light is not a great draw here. We're able to summon Debris Dragon, bring back Dandelion, and then make Black Rose to try and blow up the field. Unfortunately, this does not resolve. So I'm like, okay, this is fine as long as my Titanial sticks around, because if my Titanial sticks around, then I believe I can negate Sirocco. Let me just double check this. Let me just double check this so I can be sure. So I can be sure. Hold up. Okay, so the opponent has, where the fuck is the replay? They have 2 cards, right? They have 2 cards. So if those 2 cards are Blizzard plus Kalut, we will lose. We will lose this. But if it wasn't Blizzard plus Kalut, like we would have been fine. And if the Debris Dragon was stopped, let's say by Royal Oppression, I needed to look up Sirocco. This guy says, once per turn, you can target 1 Blackwing monster you control. So because Titanial negates cards that targets a card on the field. If they go Sirocco Bora, we can negate that with Titanial and just like blow up their Sirocco for free. So that's why I was like comfortable going for this play. I mostly wanted to bait Oppression because I thought he had Oppression. But in hindsight, I probably should have just summoned Consecrated. The Blackwing deck doesn't really play, what's that card? Torrential Tribute. So it would have just been like literally Mirror Force, if anything. And I wasn't thinking about attacking the Bora quite yet anyway. So I probably should have just summoned the Consecrated here, just because I have Titanial to protect it from Icarus. And there's not really anything else they can really do to it in the meantime. Titanial gets to attack over the Stardust, so it's kind of like I traded Debris Dragon for their back row, and I got 2 tokens out of it, which is scary, but at least Titanial will protect us from the Sirocco kill. Here comes Elfin the Raven, which is an interesting choice. I think this card is generally speaking very bad in Blackwings. I don't think it should be played. Now, it's not going to be the worst for the opponent here. They're going to be able to attack over my 2 tokens and put me in a weird spot where I'm at 2,000 life points, but again, they couldn't use his effect because I would just be able to negate it with Titanial. Titanial just really carrying its weight in this deck and in this matchup in general. Now we pick up Royal Decree. So back-to-back nut draws, basically. Some of the Consecrated set the Decree, and that's just game. Like, they can't beat this. They have to draw so many things, Heavy Storm, all that shit, just to have a shot here. Anyway, we pick up Book of Moon, which is, again, another perfect draw. Like, we just drew really lucky here. But the fact of the matter is we had these lucky draws to be able to play this game. We have these cards in our deck that increases the strength of this matchup. That's kind of the point. We go Debris Dragon, Synchro into Ancient Fairy, get 2 new tokens, run over the 2 Blackwing monsters, and set Book of Moon and pass. Now we switch Consecrated Delight to defense. They set a card, they flip Morphing Jar. I think this is actually a great inclusion in Blackwings. I think Morphing Jar is fantastic in Blackwings. People should be playing more Morphing Jar in Blackwings. It's such a disgusting card. Like, this card literally reads like draw 3 in Blackwings in the deck that can do something with those 3 drawn cards, which is awesome. Now, this normally would have been a problem because they could attack over the Consecrated Light, but alas, we have Book of Moon to protect ourselves. We can book the jar on the attack, so we're fine. Anyway, discards the hand, draws 5 new cards. We pick up pretty weak 5 cards. I would have liked to keep the Thessalos and the Debris Dragon over what we have here. Tragodia we can't tribute summon because of Consecrated. Malicious we can't tribute summon because of Consecrated. So we basically just have like a Shell, which does nothing because our board's locked, a Lone Fire, which does nothing because we already have Titanial, and Torrential, which does nothing because I don't want to nuke my own board. And I'm going to Decree in the end phase here. So we drew 5 dead cards, more or less. And he's also playing Pot of Avarice, which is another card that I think is pretty solid in Blackwings as well. He's able to Pot of Avarice his 5 monsters back. I think Pot of Avarice is definitely worse than Morphing Jar. I would play Morphing Jar way before I ever played Pot of Avarice, but it's a cool tech. It's a cool tech, and I can't say it's necessarily bad, especially in his build of the list. So yeah, sets a monster, sets background, passes. Doesn't even attack the Consecrated, which is a misplay, but like I said, we would have just booked it anyway. So end phase, we hit him with the Royal Decree. On our turn, we draw Stratos. We attack the Jar for 2100. We attack the Set monster. We set Torrential and we pass. Now, I could have held the Torrential, but there's really no difference here or there. We're losing to Heavy Storm plus Book of Moon plus Bora plus, you get the idea. Or not Bora, Blizzy, no matter what we do. So that's just the way it goes. They set the monster, set the back row. We attack over the monster, attack directly for 28. Pass the turn. Again, we can't tribute summon these guys. I could have tribute set one of them, but then like I can flip it, but then it can't even attack. So it's like, what's the point, you know? They go ahead and card destruction, which is just getting more info on our deck, really. Seeing what we've got access to. They did end up having Blizzy plus Kaloop, but they never found the Book of Moon, which could have helped them out here. They do have some really interesting ones, which, again, would have been really cool to see in Game 2, but he has to go. So we don't get to play Game 2. But this is a fine replay because it showcased Consecrated Light and what it's capable of doing. He has a lot of cool tech. I don't think that any of these cards are particularly good or bad. I think the Morphing Jar is very good. I don't think the card destruction is very good. I don't think the Avarice is at its best here, but maybe it is. I don't know. Swallow's Nest, Delta Crow are cards I've not been happy with. Neither Legacy of Yatagarasu, but Magic Cylinder is actually a card that I think is pretty fucking strong in Blackwings. So I could definitely see a list of Blackwings playing like Morphing Jar, Magic Cylinder in the future. There are some very good ideas here from the opponent. Yeah, but that just basically showcases how, like, you can be in a really shit spot against Blackwings, and you can pull back thanks to your main deck, basically pre. Yeah, but it's also cool because they're like technically engine cards. Because Consecrated can be searched off Sangan, it can be searched off 1-for-1, it can be searched in a couple different ways. If you mill it, you can grab it back with Drill Warrior, you can reverse toolbox it that way. So it's just like a really cool card to have access to in Game 1 versus a matchup that's normally really, really bad. Okay, next replay I want to show you guys is versus Skatist. We win the rock, paper, scissors in this one as well. And this is a game where I steal victory. I should not have won this game. And it also showcases some of the inconsistencies of a list like this too. So I'm going to show you I showed you some of the upsides in the last video. I'm going to show you some of the downsides in this video. Stratos gets summoned. We search malicious. This hand, we open the nuts. Like, this is like just the nuts here. We have Windblast plus a good discard. We have 1-for-1 plus a good discard. We have Thestalos for turn 2. We have Debris Dragon for turn 2. So everything's just coming up nice. And phase, we Windblast a set card, pitching Shell. On our turn, we pick up Quickdraw, which is very nice. That means we can make Drill. I just pay 5 for Shell. I commit pretty hard here. I go 1-for-1 into Cyber Valley, and I say, okay, if you have Torrential, you have Torrential, right? But then we're still up cards, which is totally chill, and we can still make Quickdraw into Drill because we still have another Shell left over, and they will have no back row except for the one they're top decking. So I activate the Cyber Valley, banish the Malicious and Cyber Valley, and this all resolves, and then we do find that Foolish Burial, which is going to give us access to Dandelion, which is amazing because we can normal summon Debris and make Drill this turn. We attack the Set monster. That's going to banish the dude. Main phase 2, I Foolish Dandelion. I make Stardust Dragon to protect my Drill. Their back row is Starlight Road. So yeah, we get 2 tokens. We pitch Volcanic Shell with Quickdraw Synchron, and yeah, they're just going to concede because they're drawing a dead card on top of their deck. We have Stardust Drill. We have more cards than them. Just the absolute nuts from this deck. You guys got to see a lot of the cool potential of 1-for-1 plus Stratos plus Malicious, that kind of thing. Usually with Malicious, what you're using it as in this deck is, well, the only things you're really using it as, because you're not using it as synchro material, you're using it as a body for Cyber Valley or for a Tribute Summon. And that's fine. Like, that is totally good enough. Like, actually having something that can, like, poke at Rykos, something that's just, like, a value discard with Phoenix Wing, 1-for-1, Quick Draw, Drill, etc., that can give you just that extra little push of value is pretty nice. And it also facilitates you being able to play Future Fusion, which is busted. So, yeah, pretty much. Game 2, things are a little bit different. I only saw DD Warrior Lady. I only saw a couple of back row. The opponent conceded before they really got a chance to show us what they were playing, so I sided like it was Fairies, which was incorrect. Our opening hand, again, it's really good, but the opponent summons Green Gadget, and I'm like, oh shit, this could be tough. This could be tough. We draw Malicious, which is fine. We have a way to discard it. I'm just going to set Treeborn, I believe, and set a couple of cards. I want to be able to discard either Dandelion or Malicious to this Windblast. I'm thinking Dandelion. And I have Torrential to kill them on the next summon. They go for Breaker instead of a Gadget here, which is kind of, in my opinion, an error. I feel like you should always go for the Gadgets before you start going for your high-value dudes that die to back row, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, Treeborn goes, but we also get to kill both Breaker and Green Gadget, so it's kind of a -1 here because the Gadget replaced itself, but at the same time, we're going to be able to get back that Treeborn later on for value. Here comes Ultimate Offering. We have to chain Windblast to it. They correct their life points here. In any case, where was I going with this? We pitch Dandelion, and now we can bring back Treeborn. We can go for Lone Fire, and we get absolutely blown out by Torrential Tribute here. I took a gamble that they didn't have it. I could have waited when blasted this back row again, but I was thinking I'm going to need to hold this Windblast for fucking Ultimate Offering. So I was like, okay, I'll just like go for my Titanial now, which obviously was pretty bad play and puts me in a terrible spot here because I didn't clear the back row first. And I lose pretty much my whole hand, and they have a Gadget, and they have 5 cards, and we just kind of get run over this game. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I missided. I don't have my good sideboard cards here, and on top of that, there's nothing I can really do. Last turn we drew Debris Dragon, but it's awkward because we've commit our Phoenix Wing already. So I'm like hoping that they'll commit more cards that I can maybe Debris Nuke them and get like a little bit more value. Here they're going to go for the Ultimate Offering. I'm going to Windblast it again, but now it's really awkward because they're just drawing that Ultimate Offering next turn, and that's a threat I'm going to have to deal with, and I don't have an answer for it. So I make Stardust. I go ahead and attack over the Green Gadget. This is at least going to deal some damage and clear both their monsters. So I'm getting my 2-for-1, albeit a slow 2-for-1, but I'm just in a spot where I need to find something or I'm going to lose this game, and I just end up not finding things. Which is, again, part of the weakness of this deck is we do play like a lot of not low impact top decks, but combo cards. Like Quickdraw is good with Shell, but Shell on its own without a conversion is not great. Malicious is good with Windblast or Quickdraw or with Future Fusion, but on its own it's not great. It's great to search off Stratos, but on its own it's not that great. So in this game, even though we did wrong match. Even though we did top deck Debris Dragon, it just wasn't enough because he didn't have enough committed for us to really take advantage of the Black Rose nuke. And the gadgets plus the ultimate offering are going to kill me at any point whenever that resolves. So yeah, here it is. This is what happens. Ultimate offering happens. A lot of gadgets come out here. Now we're not just dead, but we need to get kind of a lucky mill here to even really be in this game, more or less. DD Warrior Lady is going to banish the Stardust. We need to top deck another Debris Dragon. We have 2 more in the deck, so it's like not the most unlikely top deck, but yeah, Raiko's going to pop the red gadget. We're going to mill 3 cards. We're going to miss on our good mills. Not that I would have loved to draw any of these cards in this circumstance. We do have Malicious in the grave that we can maybe utilize. We do have Treeborn Frog in the grave we can maybe utilize, but they just have too many cards, and we've taken way too much damage here. We draw Stratos, which is kind of okay here. Stratos is unique in this deck because it can be used as a Space Typhoon if you've already found your Malicious, and that's exactly what we're going to do it here as. We're going to use Stratos to pop their back row. We're going to attack Green Gadget, but we're just dead to any removal spell. They attack over the Malicious, sets the monster, passes a turn. We draw a second shell, which is just unlucky, but it's going to happen some percentage of the time. We get Mirror Force, we have to set a shell, but we're just dead to the next gadget. They did reveal that they are on 9 gadgets, but at least for this game, I get a sideboard in my cards that work well. Now, this hand is not amazing, but it's not bad. We have Stratos, we have Decree, and we have our Malicious already, which is kind of awkward, but we can maybe pitch Stratos to summon Quickdraw, or pitch Malicious to summon Quickdraw in defense, special out Malicious, and then use Stratos as like a jank Space Typhoon. But that's kind of awkward in and of itself because Decree is already our Space Typhoon, so it's just kind of like really awkward. This hand doesn't have Dandelion access, and so most of these cards don't really do anything without Dandelion access, unfortunately. In any case, we just set the Decree and pass. I'm trying to set up for that quick draw play, but I'm not sure if we're even really going to go for it. Here comes Green Gadget. It's going to search Red Gadget. Again, I don't want to commit this Stratos unless I can get value out of it. I want it to run over something at the very least. They attack for 1,400. We take 1,400. They set a back row and pass. And because they just set 1 back row, I'm cool with not decreeing here because I could always chain it to their back row. I set a monster and pass. Again, like I mentioned in the deck tutorial, Debris Dragon does a pretty good job at like walling out these types of decks. He needs specifically DD Warrior Lady to like really attack through this, or what he ends up having, which is Plague Spreader Zombie, which puts me in just like the worst imaginable spot. Like this is just so fucking bad for us. In any case, he's able to make Bryonic. We have no way of dealing with Bryonic outside of Brain Control, and he has a Plague in the graveyard. So he can just remake that Bryonic and put us in the same exact situation after we've gone minus a billion, taken a billion damage just to get rid of it. So we take 23, he sets a back row. End phase, we do have to decree now that he has 2 back row. We draw our second Malicious, which again is just going to happen some percentage of the games. Like, you're just going to brick on these cards some percentage of the games. It's just like, you can't have a list like this without that happening. We get to Brain Control the Bryonic, we get to pitch, we get to attack first, of course, and then we get to pitch, I believe we pitch Malicious and set Debris. Now I want to bluff, like, I don't know what I'm bluffing here. Like, I am just dead. If he just summons a gadget and stacks for Plague and makes Bryonic, I can't win from this position. Like, I would need to get really lucky. I don't think I can win from that position. Like, he can even bounce the Decree too with his other card in hand and just have 2 back row plus Bryonic, and I'm at, what, 1,200? And I don't see how I'm ever winning that game. Like, legit, I just don't see how it's ever happening. His back row is Ultimate Offering, Smashing Ground, so it's not real anyway, but had his back row been real, like, he could have even done something like make Bryonic and then Ultimate Offering, summon out the gadgets, and like OTK me that turn. So yeah, just a mistake from the opponent's part here. They don't activate their Plague. They just attack into my set monster, and they miss lethal. And we get to steal this game because this game was going terribly. Like, this was a game where we were for sure dead, for sure dead. But now we get a top deck Dandelion. We finally get that Dandelion access. And you can see how insanely broken this deck is when you have Dandelion access. You can just make 3 Synchros in 1 turn, which is exactly what happens here. We make Drill, we make Stardust, and we make Iron Chain, and we're able to kill the opponent from 5,000, which is just like a total steal. We definitely should not have won this game. The opponent should have recognized that the Bryonic was once again back in their extra deck, and they could make it again with Plague, and subsequently kill us with Ultimate Offering. Alas, they did not recognize that situation, and we were able to steal this game thanks to a Dandelion top deck. Hopefully this showcased the deck. I think it's a really solid, sort of newer approach to the deck. I think it's like much more aggressive than the last lists, which are playing like Pot of Avarice. I feel like the Pot of Avarice lists, like, if you think about it, like, I'm breaking on multiple shells, right? I'm breaking out multiple militias. But if I had Pot of Avarice in my hand in that spot, which is the cards that I've cut to put these cards in, my hand would have been just as dead. Like, I would not have been able to play that game either way. So, yeah. And then on top of that, like, going second with Hamster, it's, like, okay and stuff. It's just a little slow. I think the power of this deck really is Quick Draw and Debris Dragon. I don't think the power of this deck is, like, micro advantages with, like, late game Pot of Avarice and stuff. That's just, like, too underpowered for the way the format's shaped up, where people are summoning Christia or they're able to deal you 8,000 in one turn very, very easily. Pot of Avarice is kind of laughably slow right now. So, I don't know. Let me know your take on this list in the comments below. And let me know if you like this Consecrated like tech. I think it's really, really fucking good. I think it's just like a great metagame call right now, and I think it fits really well into this deck. I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace out.